Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am so excited because I have the new Chantecaille Future Skin Foundation, the gel foundation, and this has been recently reformulated. If you are unaware, the Future Skin Gel Foundation is one of my favorite foundations of all time. It is in my top 5 foundations, and I actually did purchase this myself from Holt Renfrew, but then Chantecaille ended up sending me a package, and it was so cute. It's like this giant foundation, if you know what the Future Skin Gel Foundation looks like. And then they sent me 2 different shades and a brush. So I have purchased one myself, and then I was sent these. I will say this, so I have the shade Nude and Vanilla. Vanilla is definitely the better match. Nude works if I'm freshly self-tanned. But I do think that this formula runs a little bit deeper than the last formulation. In the last formula, I wore the shade Cream, but Vanilla is definitely proving to be a better match for me this time around. And I will say the only difference between the packaging between the previous formulation and this formulation, so it looks very, very similar. However, I will say the new version feels a little bit more sleek. It also feels a little bit more luxe, where this version, this is a plastic bottle, this is glass, so it just feels heavier, it feels more luxe. And then we see here that there's a little C embedded in this top here, and here it's just plain. So I think that these look virtually the same. There's not a huge difference. However, the major difference is that there's a C embedded here in the jar, and then it feels more luxurious now. So excited about that. And I just want to go over this foundation because, like I said, there has been some updates to this foundation. So this is a beautiful buildable coverage. This award-winning foundation blends seamlessly into the skin, providing fresh, natural coverage that wears well all day. Pair with our Blend and Smooth brush. So that's just their brush that they sent with me. There are 7 new shades. The product now offers true complexion matching for a wider skin tone range. A few of you have let me know that even the fairest tone in this range is still a little bit too dark for you. So I'm curious if they will expand this further. Obviously, I feel like it's a great start that they are starting to expand this at least a little bit. So there are more shades available. They have a variety of different undertones available. So if you are cool tone, neutral tone, or warm tone. So I'm excited to see that they are expanding. But obviously, I suppose they still need to expand a little bit more. But the shade range that we have, I just have it outlined here. It does look like it is going to be a lot better this time around. This new formula offers the same fresh, natural-looking coverage with a cleaner profile and even more skincare benefits. The 58% water-based formula is infused with a skin-smoothing retinol alternative, hydrating spirodella, polyrhiza extract, and soothing chaga mushroom extract to leave skin looking flawless and fresh. It's a botanical-powered formula. The fresh gel texture is infused with soothing aloe, arnica, and chamomile, along with antioxidant-rich rosemary and green tea extracts. The upgraded formula also includes new botanical skincare benefits, hydrolating spirodella, polyrhiza extract, and an innovative plant-based retinol alternative derived from mastic tree and soothing chaga mushroom extract, like I stated before. So we do have an improvement in the formula. It does have cleaner ingredients, and it is free of parabens, cyclic silicones, solid microplastics, which is a really big thing now. There's so many microplastics in so many of our products, so it's really nice that this is free of that. There are no phthalates and no talc. It is PETA certified and no animal testing. So enough about the foundation. I wanted to show you this foundation on because I am very pleasantly surprised by this foundation. So I'm going to go in with this shade Vanilla right here. And I am going to show you it applied. So you get this little plastic covering the foundation, and I always just take a little bit from just the top here, and I will apply it to the palm of my hand. I currently just have like my SPF, my moisturizer on that I put on this morning. It has been a few hours. It is a little bit later in the day. And then I'm going to take this Blend and Smooth brush that Chantecaille kindly sent. And again, thank you so much to Chantecaille, and also just thank you to all of you watching, because I would not receive any PR from Chantecaille if you didn't tune into my channel and watch. So I really appreciate all of you. Thank you so much if you use my links. I really, really appreciate it, and I do not say it enough. So I am just going to distribute this foundation evenly on from the palm of my hand onto my face. This is how I always like to apply foundations. And then I'm just going all over the complexion. So this definitely has a light coverage if you are familiar with the original formulation. This is a light, I would say buildable to maximum medium coverage. But my favorite thing about this foundation is that it truly looks like your skin, but that your skin's just naturally enhanced. You cannot see makeup sitting on top of your skin because it does perfect the skin. It actually, again, one of my favorite qualities in a foundation is that it slightly blurs the skin. And because of that blurring technology, that blurring effect, I feel like you don't need as much coverage because it has that filtered quality to it. So it's perfecting in a way where it's not adding a ton of coverage. I am going to go in with a little bit more because I want you to see it at this, I don't know, I want just to show you that you can build it up on the skin without it looking heavy or cakey. So I will say this brush is nice, but I prefer something a bit more dense, like my Refer LC03, is that what it's called? LC01 brush. I do still prefer that foundation brush. This is definitely a nice alternative, but I still prefer the Refer one. And this is just so gorgeous on the skin. Like I said, you cannot detect foundation sitting on your skin, which is my favorite thing. I went to a wedding this weekend, and this is the foundation that I chose to wear because of how beautiful and skin-like it looks in person. And at a wedding, you're obviously coming into close contact with people. You're talking to people one-on-one, and this wedding was partially outside. And because we were doing like a cocktail hour outside and stuff, and there was a lot of socializing outside, I wanted my makeup to look very skin-like in person. And this is just gorgeous. So you can still see little freckles peeking through on my skin. If you did have any imperfections, you would definitely need to go in with a fuller coverage concealer. But I love that it still looks like skin. And it's one of those lighter coverage foundations that has a very beautiful natural skin-like finish. A lot of lighter coverage foundations or tinted moisturizers are more on the glowy or satin side, so they're ultra hydrating. While this does provide hydration because it is a gel-based foundation and it is water-based, it's not overly hydrating where it feels greasy on the skin. This actually feels like just a cool drink of water on your skin because that gel formula is really cooling on the complexion. So that's another reason I love to use this in the summertime, is because it does feel very cooling and it's never greasy on the skin, even though this has a lighter coverage. I'm going to the beach, like my friend has a lake house, and so we're going to the lake this weekend, and I am going to be choosing to wear this foundation because yes, even on beach days, I still like to wear just a little something just to even out my complexion. This is gorgeous. I would say I have a medium coverage. My complexion, like especially in this area, any pores or texture on the skin just look very blurred, soft focus, slightly filtered. Not like an overly filtered effect where it looks fake looking or anything. It looks even, everything is evenly distributed, nothing looks dry on the skin. So even though that it's that natural skin-like finish, it's not too dry on my skin, and I personally have quite dry skin. It just looks very, very beautiful on the skin so far. I'm just gonna show you the rest of my complexion because I feel like I'm just gonna show you what I would do for like a beachy summer look. So I'm just going to take the Chantecaille Camouflage Stilo in the shade, this is 4C. So this is pretty much a dead-on match with my skin tone. It's not too brightening, but it's pretty much exactly my skin tone. So I like this to just camouflage my under eye darkness just a little bit. But again, it's not adding a ton of brightness. It also is not a high coverage product. So this is just going to slightly perfect the under eyes, but in a very natural, no makeup kind of way. Is basically like if you've ever tried the YSL Touche Éclat, it's like one of those products where it just slightly color corrects, it slightly counteracts any darkness, but it's not, I wouldn't classify it as a concealer. It just adds a subtle effect. But I love it. And I'm blending that into the skin with this BK Beauty. This is the Nikki LaRose N16 brush. I just adore this for concealer. Truthfully, this is the best concealer brush, and I used to be strictly a beauty blender girl. but this brush has totally changed my opinion about concealer brushes. I really, really highly recommend this brush. So I'm just pressing it into the under eyes. And then I am going to set this just because in the summer months, I do like a little bit of protection, and I feel like setting my under eyes just gives me a little bit more insurance. So I'm going to take this Givenchy. This is the Prisme Libre 4-color pressed powder in the shade 03 Voile Rosé. So it has a little bit of a rosy undertone, which is perfect for my under eyes, which are a little bit blue. So the pink slightly corrects. It's nothing crazy though. It's very, very slight. This is an extremely finely milled powder. Even though it is pressed, and I normally would never use a pressed powder under my eyes, it actually works really, really well. And I forgot, I actually was going to go ahead and do a little bit of a cream blush. This is the Chantecaille Cheek Gelée, the hydrating gel cream blush in the shade Euphoric. So this is my favorite shade that Chantecaille released in the Cheek Gelées. This is a reformulated cream blush, or a liquid blush, I guess you could call it. So again, distributed onto the palm of my hand, taking a BK Beauty N15 brush, and I'm going to evenly distribute that onto this brush. I just want the thinnest amount of product on this brush, and that is, when you use this method to apply your products, you're just going to have it look the best because we're applying things in very thin layers to the face. And again, everything is evenly distributed onto the brush beforehand so that everything goes on very seamless and very smooth. You're not going to have any harsh lines. It's not going to be hard to blend because we are basically pre-blending the product before we apply it to our face. So the shade Euphoric is the most perfect peachy pink. It is like that perfect balance of a pink and a peach, and I absolutely adore it. I feel like this color is perfect for the summertime as well because it's bright, but it's not obnoxiously bright. And I really like this as well because you can layer up that product. I'm just going to go in with a little bit more on this brush just to build up that color a little bit. And this almost adds a stained effect. So it's a very long wearing cream blush. It's not a cream blush where it's going to fade away after 3 or 4 hours, which a lot of cream blushes do. And it's not also going to be a cream blush that's going to remain emollient on the skin. It does melt into the skin, and it has a dry down effect. It doesn't dry down to a powder finish, but it does just dry down onto the skin, and it still looks really beautiful. And because it has that almost watercolor effect, that stain effect, it is very long wearing for a cream blush. So I absolutely adore this product and I can't recommend it enough. This has just been something I've been constantly using. So really happy with the reformulation. And then from here, I'm gonna move into powder bronzer. Again, if I'm going to the beach or the lake, I'm not gonna go too hard with my products, but I want to add a little bit of a bronzed effect. So I'm gonna take this YSL All Hours Hyper Bronze in the shade 02. And I'm gonna take this Refer 22 brush. So it's a very dense, large brush. And with a large brush, it's just going to evenly distribute that pigment in a more generous layer, I guess you could say, where I'm going to hit it in a more generous area because it's a larger brush. But it's just going to distribute that product really evenly over the skin, and this blends just so beautifully, even though I haven't powdered the rest of my skin. So I'm just using that to lightly bronze the skin. I'm not doing anything crazy with the bronzer here. I'm really just using this step to add a little bit of dimension to the skin, just so my skin doesn't look completely flat. And for highlighter, I do like to add just a little bit of highlighter. And in my best makeup for summer video, I did just want to go over something because I stated that my go-to highlight for the summer was this Prada one, just because of how it melds into the skin and it does just look so natural. So I feel like in person, this is a really beautiful highlighter because it's not noticeable at all. But I think if I still had to choose a highlighter, this Dior one is still my favorite because it's impactful, but it still looks very natural on the skin because it has that baked gelée quality where it really melts into the complexion, looks as if you've applied a liquid highlighter, but it definitely still is more impactful. Like you definitely get a bit more of a glow. But I really love both of these. They are just honestly different highlighters. So today I am going to take the Prada, this is the highlighter, the glowing powder in the shade pink. And I'm going to take it on this BK Beauty Nikki LaRose N17 brush. I'm I'm going to take it on this black haired side and just apply a little bit of that just to the high points of the skin. If you do want a more impactful highlighter, like this one is barely imperceptible on the cheeks. So I feel like some people won't like that. And this is a very emollient powder as well. So again, I feel like not everyone is going to absolutely love that because you might feel like you're not picking up any product on your brush, but it's just because this is so skin-like and it's so natural. So it's not a super noticeable product, but that is what I want if I'm going to the beach because I don't want you to be able to tell that I have actual like makeup powder product sitting on top of my skin. And then for the blush, I'm just going to take this Valentino blush, which I talk about a lot. And again, this is how I use a color like this if I still want it to look very natural. I will literally go in with this is the Refer 05 brush. I do like to use natural haired brushes on this type of product because this is almost a powder to cream product. So these types of brushes, this just pick it up a little bit better. I literally go in with that one dab of product. Probably don't have any excess product, but just in case, I'm going to dab that excess off. And then I'm just going to tap on the skin. So you use a very, very, very minimal amount of product, like I showed you, barely anything. And you just really press and work it onto the skin. And it just gives you that slight vibrancy of color, but it's nothing overwhelming. Your cheeks just look so naturally blushing. It's such a pretty blush. I just love this shade so, so much. I'm just going to add a little bit of powder just because I would do that on an everyday basis. Again, going in with this Refer 19 brush, I'm going to use the Sisley. This is the the Blur Expert press powder. And I'm just going to dip into that and just apply powder in a very precise area, just in the center of my forehead, the sides of my nose here, middle of the chin. You can also apply a little bit of product on your jawline, maybe the sides of your nose if you get a little bit oily there. But those are the only areas I'm applying product. I want a minimal amount of product because again, I don't want you to be able to see powder on my skin. And I do really like this powder for that effect because this Sisley Blur Expert powder, it almost is like a waxy powder. So you can't actually see powder on your skin at all. It is literally imperceptible. So I love that for like beach days or if I want that really natural looking skin. And then finally, I'm going to top off my lips with this Summer Fridays Lip Butter Balm in the shade, what is this, Pink Guava? I think that's what it's called. So not even going to line my lips or anything. I just want them to be very natural and glossy. But if you did maybe want to add a little bit of mascara, I'm going to take this Westman Atelier. This is the I Want To mascara in the brown shade. And I'm just going to add a little bit of mascara just to the base of my lashes, just so I have a little bit of product there. But so this is everything with all the makeup complete. This is kind of what I would wear for the beach, or I don't know, just a very natural makeup look where I still want my skin to look like skin. And I just love how this foundation looks with everything applied. Everything looks really smooth and even on the complexion. It's a very, like I said, very natural skin-like finish where nothing looks too radiant, but also nothing looks too matte. It's one of those perfect Goldilocks foundations, which are my favorite because I just feel they wear the most flattering and they're also the most realistic because sometimes glowy foundations, they just look too radiant to look like natural skin, where this actually represents natural looking skin. It is just very, very smooth, has that nice blurring technology. It's not overly blurring because it doesn't have like crazy coverage or anything, but it is that nice blurring effect that I prefer to have in a foundation. It just looks like skin. That's the best way I can describe it. I look more perfected, but it doesn't look like I have heavy makeup on. So I'm going to be wearing this throughout the day and I'm going to come back at the end of the day to show you how this wore and how it held up. But I do have to say, I'm very, very impressed with this reformulation. Do I feel like there are any major differences? Personally, in my opinion, I cannot detect any major differences, or I just can't tell any major differences. In my opinion, they're extremely similar. So if you were someone that was very concerned about the reformulation, I honestly don't think you have anything to worry about because virtually these are the exact same foundation in my opinion. I don't notice any difference except that the colors are a little bit different in my experience. But in my opinion, if anything, I feel like this reformulation looks even better on my skin. I just am like heavily impressed by it, but I don't think there are any major differences for you to be aware of or for you to be concerned about because in my opinion, it wears very similarly. It looks very similarly when you first apply the foundation. So don't be deterred from this because it is a new formula. It is absolutely gorgeous and flawless and beautiful and stunning. But I will be back in a few hours for a final check-in and my final thoughts on this foundation. I hope the lighting is okay, but it might not be perfect because the sun is setting. Anyways, it's a terrible time to be filming right now, but it is the end of the day. I'm exhausted. And I think this makeup held up really nice. Definitely the face makeup did, maybe not the rest of my makeup, but I have been wearing this for 12 hours and I think it looks still beautiful. It hasn't, like I said, faded away awkwardly, and I really like this finish of this foundation. This is just one of my favorite finishes in a foundation because it doesn't start off too greasy, and therefore throughout the day it really holds up really well. I really like this foundation. I feel like this reformulation, it almost is a little bit more matte than it previously was, or more of a natural finish. I remember it being a little bit glowier, but I could be mistaken. But I think it held up really beautifully. I would just, honestly, if I had to go out, I would just touch up and powder my skin a little bit, but I still think it looks really nice. Overall, this is a holy grail foundation. This will continue to be a favorite. Really happy that they expanded the shade range and that it's a reformulated product, and the reformulation to me seems top notch. So I'm really excited to keep reaching for this over the summertime. Again, a go-to foundation for me. So let me know your thoughts on this foundation if you've tried out this new reformulation. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like this video if you like it, and I'll see you in my next video.